Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is July 13, 2019, and this is yours truly, Arthur Denchfield, also known as Rex Arcturus and Arcturus Rex. And this is the 102nd anniversary of Our Lady of Fatima's apparition, uh, and it's the third apparition, the one of July 13, 1917. And in that apparition, Our Lady of Fatima showed the three seers, Sister Lucia, Jacinta Marto, and Francisco Marto, hell. She actually opened hell, opened the ground, and they saw hell. And they saw where billions of souls, doomed souls, are. And they later testified that if they had not been given a supernatural strength, they would have died on the spot of absolute terror and fright. And they also testified that they saw animals down there of an unknown kind of animals. That's what the demons looked like. They were torturing the souls of the damned, and there were flames all about. And I'd like to suggest that a lot of these so-called ET aliens are demons, and the three children probably saw these demons in hell when they saw hell for the first and only time of their lives on July 13, 1917. And Our Lady said at that time that the sins of the flesh were the sins most affecting humankind that was doomed. It was also on July 13, 1917, that the Virgin Mary promised the final triumph of her Immaculate Heart. She said, finally, or in the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph, and Russia will be consecrated to me, and the world will have peace. It's very interesting that on June 13, 1929, in Tui, Spain, the Blessed Virgin, the Most Holy Trinity, and Our Lady of Fatima appeared to Sister Lucia in a convent. This is June 13, 1929, and the Holy Trinity and the Mother of Jesus, and asked for the consecration of Russia by the Holy Father in union with all the bishops in the world. 8 popes have disobeyed God and Our Lady. From 1929 to 2019, that's 90 years of papal disobedience, and we suggest that over 2.5 billion souls, that's billion with a B, 2.5 billion souls have perished, have been killed because of the disobedience of 8 popes to God's command 90 years ago. And so we solemnly suggest that Francis I, in union with all the Catholic bishops in the world, do their job, because the great majority of the victims of this disobedience, 2 billion of them, are through legalized abortion. And abortion would never have been legalized if this consecration had taken place, let's say, in 1930. Had the consecration taken place in 1930, a year after this apparition, in which the Fatima apparitions were declared to be valid and worthy of belief by the Catholic Church after the Vatican studied it for, 13 years, then abortion would never have been legalized. Communism would have collapsed. There would have been no Spanish Civil War. There would have been no Holodomor in Ukraine, no Spanish Civil War. There would have been no communism, socialism, atheism. There would have been no World War II. There would have been no Israel, I guess, because that really depended on World War II. And there would have been no nuclear weapons. There would have been so many different things happening if the popes had just done what God asked way back on June 13, 1929. So 90 years have gone by of that, and 102 years have gone by since Our Lady of Fatima made her third apparition to 3 children and predicted the future, and also showed them hell, where billions and billions of souls are tortured for their sins, especially against sins of the flesh, for all eternity. And we must always keep that in mind. Eternity is forever, and our life here is passing, and we should consider on a daily basis our eternal destiny, and we should always have a healthy fear of God, and that will help us in our daily our daily journey to the eternal. Today we prayed the Rosary at the Miami Tropical Park, sponsored by the AmericaNeedsFatima.org campaign. That's AmericaNeedsFatima.org. And that was one of over 20,000 Rosary rallies that took place all across the United States of America, which began during the campaign of Donald John Trump for the presidency. And we like to think that Donald John Trump got the 306 electoral votes because of the tens of thousands of Rosary rallies that were going on all over the country, in addition to all the other good work that was done by members of the Trump-Pence team. We're very sorry that, very sad that the U.S. government has covered up for 70-some years the presence of UFOs, something that pilots, military pilots, and commercial pilots have verified to have been witness to, as well as astronauts, and all the astronauts have seen UFOs and so on. And we believe that the CE4 Research Group, ce4research.com, they have a very interesting website in which they talk about how to avoid being abducted by these so-called aliens. And we suggest that you check out that website. They say that pronouncing the word or the name of Jesus with emphasis and with full confidence and faith will immediately stop the abduction. So any of you who are seeing this and hearing this, if you have been abducted against your will, or you think that's going to happen to you, mention the word of Jesus with confidence and faith and with authority, and these entities, they will release you. I like to suggest to my friends that they use the smell test. We have 5 senses. Our sense of smell is very good when it picks up the aromas of roses and other wonderful perfume-like smells. And it's also very good at picking up odors that are bad, like the rotting eggs, hydrogen sulfide, garbage. And the smell test is the following. If you are in a situation where the smell is putrid, is terrible, is garbage-like, believe me, you are in the presence of the demonic. And many ufologists have talked about the multi-dimensional aspect of this phenomenon. We believe that Jacques Vallée, he talked about the multi-dimensionality of it. And Richard Dolan, he's also a good ufologist who has a tremendous grasp on the history of these events. And we suggested that, on the belief of our limited study, that the U.S. government made a deal with some of these entities because these entities were shooting down commercial aircraft after the military were told to shoot down the UFOs on sight. And so when they did that back in the early 50s, then the commercial aircraft were going down right and left. And so a deal was struck between these visitors and the U.S. government, and it was called the Greada Treaty that Eisenhower signed, in which he authorized the kidnapping, the abduction of American citizens for temporary exploration of analysis. They were interested in what makes us tick and all this. And of course, then they promised to give some of their technology to the U.S. government. And the U.S. government has kept this silent, quiet about it. And that's why there's a great movement towards disclosure going on right now. But we say that, unfortunately, the U.S. Constitution is such that it is unconstitutional to fight against demonic spirits. That's against the Constitution, believe it or not. You can't do that because demonic spirits are not, they're spiritual, and there's a so-called separation of church and state in play here. And so the government, I guess, knowing this, made this deal, which they kept secret from the American people. And about $30 trillion worth of money, dollars, has gone into this dark side of Area 51 and other such places in these United States where UFO technology is being studied, and also where training is going on, and where there's apparently a space fleet being developed. And all this is being kept from the American people, and this is tragic. Again, we'd like to remind the Holy Father, in union with all the Catholic bishops in the world, to do their job and consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I mean, 8 popes, including Francis, have disobeyed God, and over 2.5 billion people have been killed, 2 billion of those through legalized abortion. And this could all have been prevented if these religious authorities had just done their work way back in 1930, when the Fatima apparitions were declared valid and worthy of belief by the Holy Catholic Church. And we take this opportunity to also acknowledge that today is the feast day of King Saint Henry II, Holy Roman Emperor, the former Duke of Bavaria. He liberated Rome and the Vatican of the Lombards, and he was crowned by the Pope, Holy Roman Emperor, and he was a married Holy Roman German Emperor, and he and his wife lived as brother and sister, and they did so much good for the Catholic Church. They practiced the virtue of chastity, even in their marriage, to the point of not having relations and offering this up as a sacrifice to the Lord. And when his wife died, he had her holy body taken to the convent where she was from, and then, of course, he died, and he did so much good to the Catholic Church. And we suggest that you go to traditioninaction.org. They have the date there, is the traditional date, is July 15. Go to July 15 at traditioninaction.org, Saint of the Day, to read the story of King Saint Henry II, Holy Roman Emperor, the story written by Plinio Correa de Rivera. I had the good fortune of living in Munich for a year between 1981 and 82, and I recall the murals I saw on the wall of the University of Munich with Duke Henry of Bavaria, who eventually became Holy Roman Emperor. And I was very impressed with the good that this great emperor did. And with that in mind, we ask Holy Roman Emperor Henry II to pray mightily that monarchy be restored. Be restored in France, be restored in Portugal, be restored in Germany, be restored in Brazil. We personally know 2 imperial royal princes who are descendants of Emperor Dom Pedro II, their great-grandsons. They were members of the Brazilian Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, and I met them first in March of 1972 while visiting Sao Paulo, Brazil, and meeting with Dr. Plinio Correa de Rivera. And it was on the 25th of March, 1972, that Mr. Tim Allen Reese from San Pedro, California, and I, Arthur Denchfield from Coral Gables, Florida, we consecrated ourselves to the Virgin Mary according to the True Devotion Treatise of St. Louis de Montfort. And both these imperial royal princes, they were born in France, Don Luis in 1938 and Don Bertrand in 1941, and they are descendants of King St. Louis IX, and they're also remote descendants of Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne. Charlemagne was born in 742, and King St. Canute of Denmark was born in 1042, and Alexander Nevsky of Russia defeated the Teutonic Knights in the Battle of the Ice in 1242, and University of Notre Dame du Lac was founded in 1842, and yours truly, Arthur Denchfield, was born in 1942. So maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, we thank God and we thank Our Lady for giving us another day. God does not promise us tomorrow, and we have to be willing, and we have to be ready. Be ready to total annihilation. We come from one moment to the next. The bomb can be, or the meteor or the asteroid can hit us, and we won't be the wiser for it. We'll probably not be told until it's too late, and then everything is too late. And so it's better to be ready to enter into eternal life, and that's what faces those of us who are good and love God. We don't have to fear death. And I recommend that you go to these NDE stories, near-death experiences of people who had near death. They died, they came back, and they have great stories to tell of their experience. And with that, I have to go. God bless you. God bless America, especially God bless President and Mrs. Donald John Trump and Vice President and Mrs. Michael Pence and all the members of the Trump administration. And we again salute all those who belong to America Needs Fatima, AmericaNeedsFatima.org, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, of which I'm a founding member way back in 1972 after meeting with Dr. Plinio. 5 of us gathered in New York City, and we started what later became the TFP, TFP.org, and you can check that out on your website. And with that, I have to go. Bye.